Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
If I didn't mess it up the first time, we wouldn't. Anyway, welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It is February 25th. 2025. We're actually on time this week. We didn't have to delay. This is episode 106.
Woohoo!
Stay off my lawn.
We're getting older by the minute. We're going to sound like
we have actually
powerful, pretty darn soon there, boys.
We have actually had some pretty good feedback on our new segment of the show, if you want to call it that. It is called, the kids are calling it,
it's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
Yeah, there it is. Are you a clam chowder guy? Do you like?
I love clam chowder.
Really?
Yes. Living over in Oregon for 25 years, an hour from the beach. Yeah. There's a place called Moe's. Best clam chowder ever.
Really? Moe's, you just get really bad Tex-Mex around here. It's terrible. But today is actually National Clam Chowder Day, which, I guess there's Manhattan and New England. I think New England is made with cream and Manhattan's made with tomatoes.
Manhattan is that's an abomination that should not be allowed.
Now, I like fried clams, but I've just never been a clam chowder. It's like the smell, I think, is what
I like fried clams too. The wife doesn't care for clam chowder. If she gets one that has a little bit of grit in it, she just
really,
the condition fits.
Barbara can be that way too. Now, I like clams and I like squid, calamari. I like calamari.
Yes, I do too. I love it.
But Barbara likes clams, but she won't even touch calamari. And to me, they're almost identical. I mean, there's
a lot of difference from a fried clam and calamari. You're right. The texture is pretty close to the same.
But I love them both. But calamari, I like their little round circle bite-sized pieces. You got to pop those in there. They're
nom, 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 nom.
Nom, 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 making me hungry. Today is also National Spay Day. So if you feel like you've had enough children, of course, you go and get that taken care of. Today is also National Chocolate Covered Nut Day.
Well, what you do in your room is fine.
Exactly.
You mean, I'm sorry.
I don't know what I mean. I just give your nuts a good chocolate bath and do your thing, I guess.
I just went down a bad road, didn't I?
I was going to go down it if you didn't, so. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're just a couple of 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Pistachios. I love pistachios. And
with nuts on it.
Chocolate covered peanuts are okay, but any other kind of nuts, it just seems weird, sacrilege.
Pistachios in the shell has a place in my heart for keeping me alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would drive home and when I was doing the training, it was like a 50-minute drive to work. It was a ways to go. And driving home, I would get tired and I can fall asleep with the steering wheel in my hand. It is not a problem.
Wow.
So I found that if I had some pistachios, the popping the shells open and keeping myself busy, I didn't get sleepy. I'm bored. How people can just sit behind the steering wheel and drive for hours, I don't know. It bores me to just tears.
As long as I have something to sip on, I'm okay, and I have something to listen to. And that's when I listen to podcasts. I listen to, because almost all the national syndicated radio shows, they all have their podcasts on there. So, yes. I mean, I'm running iHeart. I run my battery down to 0 after about 4 hours on the road just because of the Bluetooth. But it works.
Well, this was 8 years ago. So, it just, so that's what I found. I always had a little bag of pistachios in the car, and
how about
would keep me awake.
You like sunflowers?
Yeah, but I don't have the patience to pop them open, eat them, so I just put a bunch in and go chew them all up, and then once it's like the flavor's gone,
then just
the whole
floss
thing
and
out.
get all the stuff out. Yeah. And when I was a kid, and maybe it's a Florida thing, I don't know, but when I was a kid playing baseball, it seemed like everybody had sunflower seeds. And these kids that I knew that I never could develop the skill for, they could pop a bunch of sunflower seeds in their mouth and crack it open, eat the sunflower seed, and spit out the shell.
The whole shell.
Inside their mouth. It's like, what kind of magic is that? It just seems sorcerous. I mean, I just
Yes, I know. I didn't have that skill or the patience either.
I don't either.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It was a baseball thing though for some reason. Anyway,
did you have something else besides pistachio nuts? Because boy, did I take us down a road.
We got a little off track.
Moving on.
I think I'm just as much as to blame on the getting off track thing. The rest of the week shapes up like this. Tomorrow is National Letter to an Elder Day. And I forgot to send you something. I'm very sorry. But
Chad, could you speak up, son? I'm not listening as good as I used to.
I walk out to the mailbox once every 6-7 days. And Thursday is National Chili Day. So, I mean, I guess Friday would be National Fill Your Trousers Day. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, we'll have to have chili dogs on Thursday. Thanks for making up my menu this week. This has been really helpful.
Used to be a big thing with or without beans. I'm not when I was a kid, I wasn't a bean person. But now that I'm older, I really enjoy the beans and chili. I don't know why that evolved, but
I enjoy them a lot the next day.
I'm sure poor Nancy does not, but yes. It's the way it goes. Friday is National Chocolate Souffle Day. Now, I don't think that I would recognize a souffle if I passed it on the street. I'm not even sure what it looks like. But anyway.
I know what it looks like when it's fallen, and don't open that oven door.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like
it's fluffy. Oh, okay.
And that's not good. But I wouldn't. Not going to take the time to make them because don't walk hard. Don't touch this. Don't let the cupboard door slam. They're really sensitive at a certain point in the baking process.
My mother would make bread, and if I slammed the front door, she'd be like, it would make her cuss. I mean, it was really bad. It's like, okay. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen a souffle, let alone eat one. And to round out the week, Saturday is National Baby Sleep Day. And I looked it up, and chloroform cannot be used. It's illegal in most places, I think. Anyway.
Well, let's see. When ours were little and teething, found that a good whiskey worked.
Well, we used to, Dimetap actually would work. I mean, back then it was, I don't know whether it had Darvon in it or something. I don't know what it was, but it's like, you could give Chris a little, if he was like fussy, he was obviously hurting from the teeth or whatever, but it's like, give him a little bit of Dimetap and he would nap for like 2 hours. And it was like, whew, man, it's almost naked time. Let's do this. We got a break. But
we have a break. Thank goodness.
Hey, you were going to tell us about the German elections.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's something that we didn't have on our schedule, but I remembered that this popped up, and another country has gone conservative, people.
Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day, and all these elections are the conservative is the CDU. What did you say that was?
Christian Democratic Union, I think is what that's called.
Yes, and the closest one to that was the AfD.
The Alternative for Deutschland, which is
there
far,
you go. And the alternative,
right.
People didn't want it because there was an 8% difference. And if you go into where am I at there? There we go. If you have less than a 5% difference, then you have to go to the Bundestag. Meaning essentially a runoff.
Oh, I was going to say, I've got one of those bunion stags on my knuckle on my big toe, but anyway.
I probably butchered
You're smacking on something, you'll say a word like that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's one of those where that's what it looks like. It says is the Bundestag.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyhow, you got to put the Stag in it. Ja, Achtung, schnell.
Yes.
I don't know any German other than Sprechen Sie Deutsch, Fräulein?
Exactly.
Nein, Achtung, schnell.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
We both watched too many war movies.
That's exactly right.
That's where I learned all my German.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, they were above the 5% threshold, so there will not be a runoff. They have won. And the gentleman of the party we were looking at is Frederick Marx.
Yes.
Marx.
I was always wondering what he was doing since the honeymooner days.
Frederick.
But I do think that Angela Merkel, with her being in charge, was similar to in America, how when we had Joe Biden in charge, it really pushed people the other way. And I think because she was so far left and really kind of left them a path of destruction similar to what Joe Biden did, or whoever was running Joe Biden. It really kind of helped. And I heard this floated many times that if Trump had won re-election, he would not have been anywhere near as productive or as effective as he is during this so far.
Yeah.
And we're only a month in. So.
Yeah, he's done more in a month than the last administration. Isn't that being kind? Did in 4 years. I mean, when you're taking that many naps and 40% of your time is vacation, you don't get a lot done. And at 4:00 is, quiet time.
I mean, it's time for warm milk, and it's 4:00 in the afternoon.
One thing about this election that how bad it's kind of like the former administration, how much they had just gone and screwed everything up so bad. There's so many things to have to fix that it brought out a lot of people in our elections as well. Well, in Germany, there was an 83.5%, and it's the highest since the unification in 1990 as the Germans cast their ballots in an early federal election on February 23rd. So they had almost 84% turnout of those that were eligible to vote. That's just crazy.
Those are nuts numbers. We would never get that here. 80.
We hit the 60s, and it's like, oh my God, there was a huge turnout. Yeah. Only 60% of you lazy butts got off your butt and went and voted. Get off your can and go vote.
Seems like I saw in this past election, I don't know whether it was just Republicans or whether it was overall, but 68% of people made it to the polls. It was one of the two. And that's really quite a bit, especially, when in 2 years, we need to keep this in mind, that in 2 years when there's the midterms, we need to show up in the same amount of numbers, because we are just a razor's edge of having the majority in both houses. We can't afford to sit on our hands and let all that go. So anyway, there is.
So anyhow, that's what's going on with that. Which I found that was interesting. We have yet another country that has gone conservative. Awesome. All this liberal stuff from Klaus Schwab, who talks like this when he tells you about what we're going to do. Yeah, gurgle somewhere else, will you? It's not. They're getting really PO'd because they thought they had this thing, America. We finally got it in our pocket, and they're going to do what we tell them, and they didn't. They don't know Americans at all.
No idea. There's a guy, speaking of how far left the left has gone, there's a guy out there on all the socials. His name is Brett Craig. And to be honest, I had not heard of him until just the other day.
What a segue. You are amazing.
We are just good. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm dragging you across the finish line with me.
Anyhow, I'm sorry. You keep talking about Brett Craig, please.
Yes, he is super impressed with the Democratic Party. And after listening to him run down why, so are we. Here we go.
Democratic Party, I salute you. Rather than learn anything from your thrashing in the election, you've doubled down on every last insane anti-American position, and it's impressive. You've continued to call all working class MAGA folks deplorable, maggots, white supremacists, and racist. I'm talking to you, Tom Hanks. Your party continues to advocate for males and women's sports and spaces. You insist that we pretend that men can become women, that men can get pregnant, and you call anyone who doesn't agree with this abject stupidity a transphobe and a bigot. Now, you Dems could have backed off all these insane ideas, but even after getting rebuked in the last election, you never wavered. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in awe of your obstinance. You promoted cancel culture, became the blind defenders of Big Pharma, even after the COVID debacle. You deny people their bodily autonomy unless it involves the right to kill another body. You became the party of big business and endless wars. You managed to turn a Kennedy into a Republican and a Cheney into a Democrat. Now that is something. You coerced our words, became the arch enemy of free speech. You cared more about illegal aliens than your own tax-paying citizens. Speaking of taxes, when we tried to understand where our tax dollars were going, you obstructed at every turn. You insisted on porn in schools while denying parental rights. You indoctrinated our children, teaching them social justice rather than reading and math. In hiring, you centered skin color and sex rather than merit and excellence. And I gotta hand it to you, hard-headed commies. You never apologized or even showed 1 ounce of remorse for any of it, even after losing the House, Senate, and the presidency. In fact, you're tripling down on all the same issues that got you to this spot. So I salute you, Democratic Party. Because of your blind hatred, moral depravity, and unwillingness to course correct, you not only lost the last election, you're on track to lose the next one too. In fact, God willing, if you keep it up, you have a real shot at becoming politically irrelevant for a generation. Now that's what I call sticking to your principles. And I, for one, just want to salute you and thank you.
You know, it reminds me when I was a kid, there was somebody that had a T-shirt. I don't know whether it was just somebody I passed at the mall or something, but there was a big thumbprint on the middle of his shirt, and it said underneath this is "I'm impressed." And it's like, that's the only thing I'm thinking about, how impressive it really is to devote yourself to something you have to know in your heart of hearts that this is absolutely stupid and ridiculous. You got to know.
Horribly divisive. I don't have anything to say against what he said.
No.
Nothing was false. He wasn't screaming about it like the left people do, and they don't have their way. No. He just was, here's what you've done. You've done this, and you've done this, you've done this, and you're still pushing that nobody wants because it was voted out that, no, we don't want that. And they're still, nope, we're going to shove it down your throat anyway. You are going to, all they're doing is alienating themselves even more.
And they say, I think there was a poll recently too of the Democratic Party alone. They ran a poll, and they're just, I think it's 2/3 of the Democratic Party are not for specifically men playing in women's sports. I don't care whether you have a dress on otherwise or you tuck your junk, whatever. It doesn't seem to matter. Even the Democrats, for the most part, are stopping and going, what? I had a friend of mine from Florida message me yesterday, James. Thank you for messaging me. But he said that he goes, even the Democrats, the Trump derangement syndrome has gone so far, and it's like I told him to say, even a lot of the Democrats are stepping back and going, what are we standing for anymore? I mean, it's crazy.
There's nobody, quote unquote, in charge. There's no leader. They're just, well, we don't know. We'll just keep complaining about what's happening and have no at all, not a single thing as to what they will do better or change for improvement.
Absolutely.
And they're being found out what they've been doing, and they're just trying to come up with everything under the sun to keep you from finding all the shenanigans they've been pulling.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Hey, we're up against a break, so when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Joy Reid losing her job. We don't necessarily celebrate when somebody loses their job, but she's terrible at her job. So I mean, it kind of worked out well. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
It's all about common sense and fun. We'll be right back.
Budweiser presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
More than any neon sign or exploding scoreboard ever could, your chrome dome cover says, hey guys, look at me.
What could you be thinking?
You think it looks natural, but it couldn't look phonier if it had a chin strap.
Look at you!
Made of space-age fibers, it can repel anything. Rain, wind, snow, and especially young women.
I don't think so.
So crack open an ice cold Budweiser, Mr. Stud in a Rug. Then crack open another for that thing on your head.
I don't think it's all straight.
Hit the button, Clyde. He's got access to the button. That's terrible.
No, not the button.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2. And we are going to talk a little bit about Joy Reid. Now,
We have to? Oh, I guess we do. It's kind of in the...
It's a little fun. She got
Oh, it's a little fun? Oh, no.
It's a lot of fun.
No, it's a lot of fun.
She lost her job the other day. And of course, when a lefty has a hard time about anything, what do? They go to social media and whine and crocodile tears. And anyway, here she is with a follow-up from our buddy Rob Smith, who is a great follow-up with this here.
My show had value, and that
No, it didn't.
I'm sorry. That what I was doing had value.
Joy Reid, your show had no value. It was trash. It was propaganda. And it was one of the most damaging things to the unity of America that I have ever seen. There was not one single scam over the past 5 to 7 years that you have not foisted on the American public. You foisted the BLM scam on the American public. You foisted the Russian collusion delusion on the American public. You foisted the January 6th basically lie and propaganda on the American public. You pushed the COVID propaganda on the American public. And so now that you have outlived your usefulness as an effective propaganda tool for the corporate masters that you serve, they have gotten rid of you, which is what happens. I hope that you're happy and feel good about yourself for basically denigrating Black Republicans, for crapping all over Black Republicans like Byron Donalds, Black Republicans like Tim Scott, Black Republicans like me. Black Republicans, you did nothing but smear, denigrate, and bully all of us because we did not fall in line with that agenda. So your tears are delicious. I care nothing about these tears because you are a liar, you are a racist, and you are a propagandist. And I'm glad your show is gone.
It's so sad.
I really wish he wouldn't mince words like that and kind of get to the point of what the problem is.
Yeah, mincing words, I don't think is his problem at all.
No, that wasn't it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was spot on. It was just nothing but, and that's what the Dems have been doing with all the shows that we're doing it. It's just propaganda.
Yeah.
And it's more and more of this stuff that's where they're just flat ass out and out lying. You've got The View. I don't think Disney's going to let it go on too much longer.
No,
they can't afford all the lawsuits. They've got like over close to $1 billion in lawsuits against them right
incredible.
now.
Didn't you say that the White House press secretary is filed
Yes,
suit?
she's on number 2.
Beautiful.
The second one around. And they just, you can't make up stuff. You can't keep doing that. Defamation of character. People have finally had enough.
Good.
You're not going to do that. They've just kind of ignored it, and they got away with doing whatever they wanted because somebody else was in charge.
And I wonder about market share, because I know that you and I have talked about this with MSNBC and CNN. They have lost so much market share over the years. You got to wonder about The View. Is there anything that even goes up against The View that could pull market share away from them? I mean, it's got to be these hens sitting at home that have nothing else to do that are just soaking up all this, again, propaganda that they like to spew. Something needs to run against them.
Enough's enough, and that's what we're seeing with other countries. I mean, it started kind of with Argentina, and now you've got Germany's involved, and I'm telling you, it's probably going to happen next that the UK, that the US has done it, and you're going to have Canada is going to be it's right in the mix right now for it to be changing.
It sure
and
is.
boy, do we have some stuff on that. Anyway, segue.
Megyn Kelly, and I actually have a follow-up.
Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Known for her sharp responses to a lot of this stuff, she had this to say about Joy Reid's firing.
The big news tonight will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality. The truth is, this is very sad news for us, as she's provided so much material over the years. I feel the way I felt when Brian Stelter got fired, but he came back, and you never know. I'm sure Joy Reid will wind up doing something where we will continue to get to respond to her absolutely insane POV.
So if MSNBC is under new management, I'm curious to see which direction they go. So I had not heard that.
I don't think they've been
then.
bought yet, but I think they did. The guy that was running it left, and like I said, I've kind of gone back to checking MSN maybe every other day now, and they're still. It's like what in that they're still pushing the lefty stuff as hard as they can push it, saying stuff that's like, no, that's not what happened at all.
Yeah. And it's all to just push this agenda. So lying is just part of it. But to complete this three-way cat fight, Don Lemon.
The final female in the list is.
That's right, is Don Lemon. A response to a response. Anyway, here it is.
So let me just say to Megyn Kelly, in my 30-some years as a journalist and my 50-some years as a person of color,
He's a journalist?
I usually don't like to talk about her because she's one of those people. She thrives on it. She has built the second part of her career on being a troll.
Again, she is living rent-free in your head, so why not?
Jiminy Christmas. He doesn't know what a journalist is because he's another one. Why he doesn't have a job is because he's just another propagandist for the left. That's the stuff he has made up over the years. You go, what?
Again, he's another one of those racist people that cloaks himself as a social justice person. If you were really cared about justice at all, you would not be racist. That wouldn't even be part of your. And like we talked with Mike Mendoza over in Great Britain. It's like there's no room in politics, should be, or in journalism for racist attitudes at all. It blows my mind every time we see it.
I don't give a flying rats if somebody's pink, purple, orange, or green. It makes no difference to me. If you're a decent human being, good for you. You worked hard to get where you're at. That's great. That's what America is. Sit around and go, I need another handout. No, I got a problem with that.
And we celebrate people of all colors doing all kinds of things or women or whatever. I mean, it doesn't. Most people don't care. And finally, that message is starting to come across is that most people don't care what color or what gender you are. We don't care. But if you're a good pilot, if you're good at your job to do whatever, I don't care. As long as you're good. Meritocracy. Anyway, we have heard, we're going to shift gears here a little bit, since
we have?
Yeah, you didn't hear it. I didn't push in the clutch all the way. We heard since early in the Trump presidency that we were eyeing Canada to be the 51st state. Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was being interviewed the other day and gave us some insight on that story, which I had not heard before. So here it is.
Hot mic moment. Canada's Prime Minister said that absorbing Canada is a real thing. Is it a real thing?
Look, you know how that came about? President's meeting with Trudeau, and Trudeau says, well, if you even out our trade relationship, then we will cease to exist as a country. At which point the president responded very logically, and that is, well, if you can't exist without cheating in trade, then you should become a state. That was his observation.
That's how it started.
It is how it started. And I think he's told the story publicly. And that's how all this began. Look, Canada's our friend. Canada's our neighbor. Canada's our partner. But it goes back to the point I made. For decades, the United States allowed uneven trade imbalances to develop. During the Cold War, you know why we did it? We did it because we felt like we want countries to be strong economically, even if it means they're cheating, because we don't want them to fall victim to some internal Marxist coup that overturns their government or what have you. Those days are gone. These are rich, developed economies. And ultimately, who can argue against the fact that whatever they charge us, we should charge them. Whatever they prohibit, if they don't allow American companies to do it, we should not allow their companies to do it here. American banks can't even operate in Canada. So there has to be reciprocity here. We can continue to work together on all kinds of things, but whether it's Canada, Mexico, China, anybody else, when it comes to economics and trade, there has to be reciprocity, there has to be fairness. And who would argue, how can anybody argue against that? The days where we just allow countries to take advantage of us, that has to end. That's not good for the global order. That leads to imbalances that create friction points.
It's interesting. They said if they charged, or if we charged the same amount of tariffs as they charged to us, then they couldn't operate as a country. It'd be over for them. That's just insane.
Oh, it's funny. They're going, we're gonna boycott U.S. stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Hurt my feelings. What are you, 2 or 3% of our exports?
we don't. Well, or imports. We don't import, but like 1.5%, 2% or something of the overall stuff comes from Canada,
and most of that's oil, right?
Well, you have oil, and you've got for yourself, for your body oil, as in maple syrup.
Body oil. That's right.
We make a lot of that here up in the, up there in Vermont. They think it's pretty good stuff. They do it over there in Maine as well.
You can't get there from here.
There's too much snow this time of year. You're going to have to wait for the thaw. Anyhow, sorry. So it's like, okay, knock yourselves out, kids. It's like, come on. Get serious. We liked Canada until Trudeau just.
Oh, I know.
He needs to go away yesterday.
He's like a cognitive, less of a cognitive mess than Biden, but he's almost the same person as Biden. He just doesn't understand how to run a country. The poor guy. I mean, a lot of times when we see these people that are good looking that have no brain cells. I mean, that's who he is. I mean, he's probably made it this far in life on his looks. And granted, he's a good looking guy. I'll give it to him. But man, he's got no depth.
There's nothing there. Yeah. I mean, he's nothing more than a World Economic Forum lackey.
Yep, absolutely.
That's pretty much it. He just keeps taxing the crap out of them. They are taxed now something like 65% of every dollar they make is in taxes goes to the government.
Incredible. Well, I think if Pierre Poilievre gets in there, then he's going to get rid of that carbon tax. That carbon tax is like 25% or something. It's outrageous.
It's stupid how much it is.
But he's going to get rid of all that stuff. Hopefully they do elect him, and a couple of our Canadian friends that we have that they feel the same way. I think they're going to get rid of. They're gonna vote for Pierre, which I think would be a step in the right direction. They need somebody who actually has a brain to run the country, and it's a beautiful place up there. I've only been there once, but it's beautiful, and it shouldn't be running to the ground like it has been.
It's wonderful. The people have been good. I've got several friends up there, and it is just an absolute mess.
Yeah,
they're supposed to have this quote unquote free healthcare. That's why you pay 60% in taxes for your free healthcare that you stand in line for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I had a friend that had, was his gallbladder was swollen up and was having problems and hurting like nobody's business. And they finally had a hospital bed open up, and they didn't have any availability to operate on him for a week. They kept him drugged for a week. He goes, boy, I don't know how much that would have cost down in the States to be. I said, we wouldn't have been in the hospital for a week.
No.
My wife just had complete total knee replacement. At 7:00 in the morning, they got to cut off the bad stuff, but the new in. She hates it when I do that, by the way.
Gives her nightmares.
Then we went home at 4:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. We were done. But we didn't stay overnight.
I may have told this story before, but I went to high school with a girl, Julie, that she married a Canadian guy. She lived up in Ontario somewhere. And she had, I actually connected with her probably about 10 years ago. And I remember our conversation, and that I was telling her I had just had neck surgery at that point. I had a blown out disc in my neck that was causing pain down my left side and the whole thing. And it took maybe 3 months to schedule everything, to get everything, all the tests done, so the insurance paid and the whole thing. And she said she had the same thing. I think it was the same disc, as a matter of fact. And the Canadian system said that we're going to put you on the list. So she was on the list. By the time that she came up on the list 3 years later.
Oh, that's 3 years of pain.
Yep. They did another. Yeah, exactly. They did another MRI, and they said, it's too far gone now. We can't fix you. So I'm like, that to me, that just spoke volumes of how messed up that system is. Europe runs their system so much better. Our friend Charmaine has actually praised the system they have in the UK. And if it's run well, we don't do anything well here in the US, and apparently Canada is picked up on the whole thing.
If the government gets involved, it's an absolute what? And that's what we're finding out with all the stuff that's going on. So,
well, hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about a new conservative voice that is on CNN that used to be on MSNBC until they cratered themselves. So we're going to hear a little bit from him and their reaction to him when we come back. So hang in there.
Stay tuned. More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
Join the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help light the night and bring hope. Light the Night is a nationwide event that brings communities together to honor, remember, and celebrate those who have been afflicted with blood cancers. Lift your lanterns high and help shine a path to a cancer-free future. Be a part of Light the Night and find your local event at lightthenight.org. Let's light up the night and make a difference together. That's lightthenight.org to get involved.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. Holy cow, I can count.
We're going quick.
I know, it's very fast. Michael Singleton, a guy I had not heard of previously because I don't watch, we don't have cable anymore, so I don't really get to watch any of the cable news networks. But he's a conservative. They let speak sometimes in left-wing media. He used to be a regular on MSNBC, and this clip specifically has been shown on, he was on CNN. So anyway, last week he was asked about Elon and his getting access to Social Security databases and welfare databases and all that kind of stuff. And everybody, the left is freaking out about that. And, of course, they're fear-mongering, and they asked the wrong guy about it. So here's him.
He's not going to do anything nefarious with this information. It's almost as if you're doing an accounting, a forensics accounting of a company. You need to have access of everything in order to say we should make cuts here or this is ineffective or inefficient. He's doing what the president has mandated for him to do, in part what the American people expected Donald Trump to do. And as it pertains to Democrats, Democrats have had every opportunity to come to the table to offer a solution to cutting government spending. Once upon a time, they actually believed in that. Instead, all I have heard is whining, complaining about what Trump is doing, what Elon Musk is doing. The American people every single month, Dan, has to balance their budgets. They have to see how much money they can afford to pay for certain things and how much they have to cut back. Why shouldn't the federal government do the same? You would think that my Democratic friends would agree with that. Yeah. And I have seen the exact opposite.
Can't argue with that. I mean,
nope. I mean, that's, one thing that has kind of quieted down a little bit is he was not elected. No kidding. Neither was anybody else in anybody's cabinet ever.
Right. The only two people in this executive branch that were elected was the president and vice president. Everybody else, it's like they serve at the pleasure of the president. So you got to.
Yes.
I don't know.
And then you got these judges that are getting in the middle of stuff. And that's just getting, well, we got more on DOGE later. But at any rate, but that was so very well said.
It was.
How in the world are you? And what was that? The one judge is telling them that, no, you can't, not even the Secretary of the Treasury, he can't look at the information. What? That's his job.
It's just so stupid.
What the hell?
It's fear-mongering, and it's all they know how to do. They want everybody to feel like the government's out to get you now. No, they're not. They're out to get you because you're corrupt and you've been stealing money from the coffers of the country for too long.
Yeah, what was a constitutional crisis? Yes. It's a constitutional crisis. Yes, we've got a constitutional. Everybody's saying the same damn thing. Yeah. Constitutional crisis. Yeah, you are the constitutional crisis, and what you've done to this country, and how much money you have stolen from the American taxpayer.
No doubt. What was that?
Anyway, I'm a little wound up about that one.
Too much coffee. We got to go to decaf. But yeah, I think we did have a clip.
It comes down.
We had a clip last week just from CNN and MSNBC where it's like they were all saying the same thing: constitutional crisis. It's like where in the Constitution does it say you shouldn't audit yourself? I mean, there's nothing in there. It's just it's fear mongering again. It's a word that I probably have overused, but it's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Well, anyway, this guy, this senator, is quickly becoming one of our favorite people, and that number of favorite people in Congress is really growing. Senator Markwayne Mullen from Oklahoma. He was interviewed on Meet the Press about Elon and
Face the Nation.
Was it Face the Nation?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This is how that went, though. It didn't go so well.
We have to make changes, and we have to make it quickly. Unfortunately, when we have bureaucrats and politicians that have wastefully spent the American taxpayer dollars, and we don't have to look any farther than USAID to see the wasteful billions of dollars that were spent. Cuts had to take place, and every business owner understands this. Every business owner understands that you have to get your house in order before you can advance. That's exactly what DOGE is doing. Think about this. Every successful business owner out there and every successful business has hired consultants to come in and take an unbiased look and make changes, because sometimes when you're so close to it, you can't see what the real changes need to take place. Elon Musk is the United States consultant right now. He is literally the best entrepreneur we've had in our lifetime, and he's doing it for free. And he's taking an unbiased look, saying these programs make no sense. Let's save the taxpayer dollars and get our house in order.
Well, she was trying to get in there.
He wasn't even hardly taking a breath.
Nope. I love it. I love it. It was great. He's just one of those articulate guys that you want him to go on these shows. And of course, they don't have anybody else, because everybody in the cabinet and a lot of these guys in the Senate that are leading these things are well spoken like he is. So I mean, what are you going to do? He was also
some good people coming up.
Absolutely. He was also asked about Ukraine, and there's a lot of the people in the media that I think, Richard, if I'm speaking for you also, that we don't agree with, that think that we should be shoveling money to Ukraine left and right. It's got nothing to do with no sympathy for the Ukrainian people. It has nothing to do with that. It's just we need to, like Markwayne Mullen just said, we need to get our own house in order. We need to make sure that people that have been affected by hurricanes and natural disasters and fires, that we need to take care of our own people before we start sending hundreds of billions of dollars in equipment and money to a country that most people cannot point out on a map. And maybe I'm not getting something, but that's the way I see it.
Well, and then we're finding out that like half of the arms and stuff that we sent them, not money, but all the military equipment and stuff, half of it's been sold on the black market.
Yeah.
It's okay, well, you've got one communist country fighting another one.
Yeah, and you're going to get a lot of opinions on this, but I mean, it's one of those things that this has been mine from the very beginning on this whole Ukraine crisis. So anyway, Markwayne Mullen was asked about that specifically too.
As we gave Zelensky multiple warnings that there needed to be negotiations before the war even started, and President Trump is absolutely correct. If he was in office, this war would have never, ever taken place. What we're trying to do and what President Trump is trying to do is end the killing. It's been going on for 3 years. The Biden administration turned a blind eye to it, and President Trump is the president that can end the war. There, fact and simple.
Well, I guess, but I didn't hear an answer to the question of, did Vladimir Putin start the war? You yourself said when Russia invaded Ukraine 3 years ago, quote, I strongly condemn the unjustified and unprovoked attack on Ukraine. So just to be clear, Senator, do you still believe this was an unjustified and unprovoked attack on Ukraine by Russia?
You know, what we believe is this war should have never taken place. And what we're trying to do here is put President Trump in a good position to negotiate the end of the war. It's the same way that Reagan worked with Gorbachev by trying to end the Cold War. Trump is a president that's going to be able to end the killings that should have never taken place and would have never taken place if he would have been in office instead of Joe Biden. The reason why is because President Trump leads peace through strength. What Biden led through is appeasement. And that doesn't work on the world stage. And I do believe 100% that we don't want to attack back the president or this administration to a corner on saying things that might damage the ability for President Trump to negotiate an end to this war. And President Trump is a deal maker. He will end this war.
He navigated that minefield a lot, very, very well, because they like to call us pro-Putin or pro-Russia if you're against sending money to Ukraine. He did that very well.
It's basically both sides needed to chat before when this thing was getting heated up. So again, we've got somebody that not just flapping their gums, but has actual substance behind it. And it is so refreshing to hear some of that when they're doing that.
It really is. Yeah. They've kind of grown their cojones a little bit and say, what are you going to do? I'm going to speak my mind and, or speak the mind of my constituents. That's why they put me here. And they have no fear anymore. I love that. I just love that.
Yeah. We're getting more and more of them that are getting voted in, and they are concerned about their constituents, the American taxpayers.
Absolutely.
It's their money. It's not ours to be playing with. And all these old guard goes, well, I think that money is something that we need to be dealing with. You all are too stupid to do anything with your money.
You're right.
Those guys are going by the wayside.
That mindset of, well, we're here and we're in charge and everybody else is dumb, just like you said, that is leaving, and that it seems to that was in charge for too long. It needs to go away.
Way too long.
Well, DOGE keeps finding things. I think this one just came out yesterday.
What? They're finding stuff?
I know. It's really strange. Hats off to Brian Glenn. He's from Real America's Voice. They're letting in some of these smaller media companies into the briefing room, which is another breath of fresh air like we were talking about before. And hats off to him for asking Karoline Leavitt about this. This is how that went.
Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marcia Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some of this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOGE is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us. Unfortunately, I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? And so that's the thing. Those are the things that DOGE is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that 70.
Oh, well, that ended kind of abruptly. I wasn't sure how that. That was my fault. Sorry about that. But $2.7 trillion to people that are either deceased or overseas or just shouldn't be getting it. And that's preliminarily. We're only in this in a little over a month.
Yeah, the Social Security stuff is just an absolute joke. Why are you sending checks to somebody that's 350 years old? Why? How are they going to support their young helpless soldiers from the Civil War?
Yeah, I know.
Because they already lost a husband in the Revolutionary War. So what the hell?
It's incredible. DOGE is going to be a frequent subject of ours, I think, going forward for quite a while.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Byron Donalds was on Mark Levin's show the other day and was asked about what DOGE is actually doing, and he had a great response.
It has to do with this very simple thing. They love the massive bloat and waste because, it's like you said, Mark, they get to fit all of their little pet projects underneath the covers where nobody can see it. You got Stacey Abrams and one of her climate fund groups is supposed to get $2 billion when, if you look at their tax returns, their revenue is only $100 and they're getting $2 billion. This is the kind of stuff. They're so upset about Elon Musk and the DOGE team having access to the Internal Revenue Service data and to the Treasury payment system. But there's a report that came out the other day that under Joe Biden, he let 53 researchers and students, unpaid people, go in and actually have full access to the data of the American people at the IRS. Joe Biden's administration let that happen. So they have no problem with the waste and the fraud and the abuse as long as their special interest groups are being funded and their ideology is being promoted regardless of the will of the American people. But our country can't simply survive that. We are very thankful that Donald Trump and his team are saying enough enough is enough. They are going to save this nation for the American people and begin the process of restoring a constitutional republic.
You know, it's one of those things. Stacey Abrams, the perennial running for governor of state of Georgia, she's been really quiet lately. So apparently she's got $2 billion to go spend. So
yeah, she had a bunch that there was that. There was some money that was supposed to go to building houses in, was it the Dominican Republic after like one of the hurricanes or something? It was
I think it was Haiti. Yeah. It was
Haiti. That's what it was Haiti. I knew it was somewhere down
same
there.
island. Yeah, it's just
same island, just the other side of it.
Exactly.
I'm going, I was really close.
You were.
But it's $200 million or something to build houses. They built 16 or something.
Oh, I know.
So it was just a stupid amount of money. And where'd the rest of it go? Cronyism. Oh, well, you need this. We can't send it directly down there because they'll just abuse it. We need to abuse it first before it goes down there. It's like, what?
We need to
made no sense.
Smack it in the butt and call it names before we send it on.
Jeez.
But you know, that reminds me of the whole charging stations thing. Remember, they spent billions of dollars, or they allocated billions of dollars to build these charging stations for electric cars, and I think 7 were built.
Yeah, it's not even a dozen, not even 10.
Incredible. So anyway, I do think it's interesting how DOGE keeps turning stuff over, and the more they turn over, the more people start screaming.
The more that are going of the Democrats, they keep losing more and more people because they're still registering as Republicans.
Yeah.
It's still happening right now where they're going, wait a minute, you guys were the ones. No.
I've got to admit, I'm a little giddy about it. I think it's wonderful.
So we kept trying to say they were crooked as a dog's hind leg, and that hind leg finally broke.
It finally broke.
It's a problem.
That's great. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. He's going to float a new tax idea that may catch on. It may not, but it's an idea. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
When Uncle Joe was asked what he thought of Mike and Richard, he said,
"These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass."
"We'll take that as a compliment. Stay off my lawn. We'll be right back."
Kit Kat is brewing up a new mix with creamy mocha flavor and delicious chocolate. Introducing Kit Kat Duos Mocha and Chocolate. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. We're almost done. We are on the downhill slide, and it's oiled up for us.
That's right. It's our Friday.
That's
right.
right.
It is. I mean, it's like, give me a break. It's the last 15.
It's like Thursday
17,
afternoon.
20, whatever it's going to end up being.
It could be 20. We just don't. We never know.
Not like it hasn't been before.
That's right. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, which, by the way, Florida, I was going to mention this on the last segment. Donald Trump endorsed Byron Donalds for governor in the 2026 race already. Byron Donalds hadn't even said he's going to run. So I'm not sure if Trump is jumping the gun or Byron kind of told him in private that's what he was going to do. But Ron DeSantis' wife was going to run. So that may be a little bit of I heard him speak the other day, and he said that she would probably do a better job than he did. She's a cancer survivor. She just had breast cancer a couple of years ago, and she's a tough lady. And so anyway, that'll be an interesting run down there. I think Matt Gaetz was actually eyeing the governor's mansion down there too. So who knows how that's all going to go.
Don't have a problem with any of them.
No,
it sounds like Florida is going to be in good hands, whoever it might end up being.
Well, they have supermajority in the legislature. So, I mean, the state is blood red. There's just no getting around it right now.
It's not a swing state. It's flat out red now.
And it's funny, 20 years ago, it was definitely a purple swing state. It's really interesting how that's shifted.
Yeah. And our little state of Idaho, we've had such a humongous influx of Californians, Washingtonians, Oregonians, all that stuff has moved in. It's like, oh God, the state's going to be, they're trying to make it blue. You know what? This last election was 6% more red than it was.
Well, a lot of the right-minded people from those states have gotten out because of this, because of the way it's run.
Well, we have talked about California. There's California conservative, and then there's conservatism.
It's certainly
it is a different deal.
Absolutely, very, very different. We were talking off the air about that. The guy that we know that's like, or the guy that I know, you are not conservative. You're a California conservative. It's very different.
Yeah, there is a difference. Anyway, so that we don't go long, what's Ron?
It's already started. Show's over. I'm all done. Anyway, Ron DeSantis has proposed a new thing. It's about getting rid of property taxes.
Subject their citizens to higher taxes, such as higher property taxes, to pay for these spending habits. And these property taxes, it's like you buy a home, you buy land, maybe you buy the home outright, but maybe you pay off a mortgage over 30 years. And then, okay, you've paid off the mortgage, you bought the land, you've been taxed many times. It's like, is it your property or not? Just for being on your property, you got to write a check to the government every year. So you're basically paying rent to the government to live on your own property. And our homestead exemption is not strong enough to help these folks because the property gets assessed so high. And that's the thing. If you buy a home for $300,000 and there's certain tax, well then what? 10 years later, they say it's worth $700,000. And so, and they say, there's homestead stuff that helps protect you to a certain extent, but you're paying more. And a lot of people can't afford that. So I think that that's a big issue. And I know we're going to be really looking at ways to bring people relief from that, because I think it's been really something that's pinching a lot of homeowners, particularly seniors on fixed income. But the reality is people have seen, and this is not the state, we don't control this, we've not allowed any of that stuff to happen. We've been cutting taxes, but people have seen their property tax liability go up over these last years because the property is being assessed higher and higher. And the reality is you don't really know how much your home is worth until someone offers you money and is willing to pull the trigger on a sale. That's how a market works. You can say it's worth this much, but if no one's willing to come and offer you that much, then why should you pay taxes on that amount? And so there's a lot of things that need to be done with that.
In Florida is got a unique situation like that because you got a lot of the older people that have been there since the 70s. And my parents bought our last house in 76, I think it was. And just in between 76 and 84, I think, when my mother sold the house, I mean, it had more than doubled in price. And I know that and nowadays, that same house that was bought in 1975 or 76, whatever, for $18,000 is now probably going $250,000. So you got to think these are not just rich people that are buying a $500,000 house that are paying all these are people that have been there forever, and they're getting screwed over. I think.
Well, that's happened in Idaho too. Like I just mentioned, with all the people moving in, something that I didn't pay that much for the property that I'm here. It's 3.5 acres. It's not anything fancy.
Yeah.
But it has gone from what I paid for it. It's quadrupled in 18 years.
Yep.
Quadrupled for the price that I paid. I went, really? I don't know if I could get that much. And get letters. I get text messages from people that I don't know. How'd you find the number? Well, they looked stuff up. I still have the same number. And it's like, you want to sell your? No. I don't. I like living where I am out here in the boonies.
But I think that's one thing that Idaho and places like Florida and even Georgia and Tennessee have in common is that you've got people moving from other states that are so totally tax oppressive that they want to get away from it. So, when just more people moving in, the prices just keep going up. In Florida, you have Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, especially in the Tampa area, and you've got Dade County and Broward County down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami. And it's like a lot of those people that have been there forever, that live in humble little abodes, end up paying through the nose, and it makes them want to sell. And that's why they respond to these calls saying, "We'll buy your house." Well, I mean, okay, because I can't afford to stay. It is sad, and I don't. Seems like this is a big step to try to get rid of property taxes. I like his thought process, though.
Well, I like that there's thinking about trying to do something as opposed to just continually piling on, because that has been the problem with the Democrats and we've heard it for years and decades of all they want to do is tax and spend. Well, that's what they've been doing, is tax you a bunch so that we can spend even more on crap than we're finding out what kind of crap there is.
Right.
So
I've heard that since high school. So it's been going on for a long time.
It's been around forever. And the tax and spend days, people have finally, that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Apple CEO Tim Cook met with the president last week, and yesterday morning they made a big announcement. And here's how the left-wing media organization Reuters actually announced it.
Apple said on Monday it would spend $500 billion in U.S. investments in the next 4 years. The money will fund a giant factory in Texas for artificial intelligence servers and 20,000 research and development jobs across the country in that time. It is also expected to cover spending on everything from purchases from U.S. suppliers to filming of television shows and movies for its Apple TV Plus service. Apple declined to say how much of the figure it was already planning to spend in the country. The move comes after media reports that Apple CEO Tim Cook met President Donald Trump last week. Many of Apple's products that are assembled in China could face 10% tariffs imposed by Trump earlier this month, though the iPhone maker had secured some waivers from China tariffs in the first Trump administration. One analyst tells Reuters this is a political gesture toward the Trump administration. Apple made a similar announcement about its U.S. spending plans in 2018 during the first Trump administration. Trump, in a Truth Social post, thanked Apple and Cook, saying the move reflected the company's faith in his administration. Shares of Apple were up fractionally in late morning trading.
I think an arm was twisted a little bit.
Wow. They just will look at any angle they can to say, well, it's not all it's cracked up to be. What are you even talking about? And where did you make that up from?
And wasn't it just about a month ago they said they were doubling down on their DEI? You got to wonder if that's going to kind of go by the wayside now that this meeting has happened between Tim Cook and Trump.
Yeah, I'm going to guess pretty much that would be it.
I would not be
surprised. Like, give me a break. And all these lefties and the different Gallup and the different polls that are out there, there are certain ones, and Gallup is another one, Reuters is one, and there was another one, are all left-wing.
Politico, I think is one.
Politico are all left-wing pollsters, right, if you will. So their polls are showing, he's down in the numbers. If you look at stuff that's neither left or right, he's way up, but not according to them. Well, that's what Carville was talking about. They just don't want, and he gets high pitched when he gets wound up and PO'd. So,
I think it's when you lie, you look down and to the left, and your voice goes up. I think that's what it is. Us with our golden tones, it doesn't happen to us because we don't lie about it.
You get what you get. We don't even edit stuff, people.
Exactly. Well, hey, we need a palate cleanser after all that.
Oh, please, yes. That's been a lot today. We've done really quite well. It's amazing how we manage things today. It's scary.
It's almost like we know what we're doing. It's really weird.
I know.
Time-wise, we have done really well. I think we haven't just overwhelmed ourselves with too many stories. There's normally so much out there, and that's normally what happens. We just there's so much we want to spew.
Trying to pick through it this week.
I know.
Just... Yeah, he's just working too hard and we can't keep up.
I love that. Well, I mean, he's only 78. Try to keep up. You're 40. But yeah, anyway. Our palate cleanser this week is about some nursery rhymes. Things that you may not have known about certain nursery rhymes that we all knew. I guess if you're over 40, you've heard these. So here's Paul Harvey and the rest of the story.
And now, the rest of the story. Hey, diddle, diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Well, now that rhyme is not nearly so nonsensical as you think. But that, well, that is the rest of the story. Elizabeth Foster was born in 1665 in England, and she didn't dare repeat that verse out loud until she got to this side of the Atlantic, because her verse was poking some pretty pointed fun at Queen Elizabeth and her court. You see, in those days, every queen was called a cat. Elizabeth did play the fiddle. The little dog was her lover, the Earl of Leicester, and the spoon referred to Lady Catherine Grey, a lady-in-waiting who tasted every dish before it was served to Her Majesty. The dish, well, that was the Earl of Hertford, custodian of the Queen's tableware, and it was he who eloped with Lady Catherine. And you thought this was kid stuff? Elizabeth Foster came to the United States with her little poem, married a widower in Boston named Isaac Goose, who had 10 children. Elizabeth became Mother Goose, that's right, to 10 children, and for the amusement of her 10 stepchildren, Mrs. Goose recited other little verses, which she had brought from England or written en route. The one about Mary, Mary, quite contrary, that referred to Mary, Queen of Scots. King George was Georgie Porgy, who kissed the girls and made them cry. Edward VI, who seized farms for sheep pastures, was lampooned in her verse, Ba, Ba, Black Sheep. Eventually, the second Mrs. Goose had another 10 children. Now there were 20. Her little verses became necessary bedtime ditties with which to put her enormous brood to sleep, and it was about this time that she wrote of the old woman who lived in a shoe, who had so many children she didn't know what to do. And yet the rhymes, which are now so familiar, might never have been heard outside the nursery, except that one day, while Mrs. Goose was still cooing verses to the most recent offspring, some of the earlier ones were ripening for marriage, and there appeared upon the scene one Thomas Fleet from Shropshire, England, and he wooed and won one of the Goose daughters. But he, a staunch Tory, did not like the way Mrs. Goose poked fun at the crown, and eventually his antagonism mounted to a fury, and he sought in callous ire to brand her publicly. Now, Fleet was a printer. So in 1719, he copied down those verses and he published them in a pamphlet referring to the author as Old Mother Goose. In this way, he sought to alienate all of the Back Bay from his stepmother-in-law. This young Fleet was certain would silence her impertinence forever. But to Fleet's dismay, the pamphlet was praised. Everybody wanted a copy. Instead of demanding the author's scalp, they demanded a second printing. And Mother Goose will have an audience for as long as there are children. Though it was certainly not for children that she wrote needles and pins, when a man marries, his troubles begin. That reference was to Henry VIII and his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, who introduced pins from France before she lost her head. Soon husbands had to provide their wives with special allowances for this luxury, and that's when the phrase pin money was injected into our language. Oh, yes, these lines, each concealing some sharp barb, these verses designed to unstuff the pompous politicians and expose the royal scandals, became nursery rhymes. They became nursery rhymes because a printer named Thomas Fleet deliberately tried to discredit his stepmother-in-law and immortalized her instead. And now you know the rest of the story.
Oh,
what do they say? Karma's a bee?
Yeah. You try to run somebody in the ground and it takes off.
That's kind of what's happening now to the Dims, too.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway.
My daughter-in-law is going to love that story because she loves the crown and the whole British Empire.
I say, we're not going to take that with you. What, you all want to have a copy? No. I didn't mean it that way. Honest, I didn't.
I was waiting to hear something about clutching my pearls. It had to have come from that era, I would think. So anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon. I love the new iHeart app, though. You can, if you go into iHeart, you can find our podcast and put it as a preset. That way, every time you open up the app, you can find us like in a line of in a row of things that you've made presets.
I hadn't tried that yet.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. They made normally these upgrades are just a pain in the butt. They just move things around and call it an upgrade. iHeart actually did something this time.
Cool.
So you can find us there. So.
Yeah, or you can find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. You can enjoy us on your drive home. You can get the apps for both Apple and Android, or you know what? Just go to our website at StayOffMyLawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
All right, well, hang in there this week. We'll see you then.
Toodles, thanks again so much for listening, folks. We appreciate you. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See See you next time.